Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria, Munson here. Oh, I haven't got all my lights on. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. Is that any better? I don't know. It lights the highlights in my beard. Complements what's going on with the salt and pepper there, maybe with a few top notes of turmeric. How are you this morning? Tudo bem? Como estás? Bon dia, alegria. Lovely day at the meetup yesterday. Thank you to everybody who came along to the meetup. Very relaxed. We didn't quite. I mean, T-Duck was willing, but but my flesh wasn't, as it was. I just really nicely chilled out, sat in a chair watching the world go by in San Martino de Porto yesterday. So no outside broadcast yesterday. Met with some lovely people. Hello to those Canadians of Dutch origin, Elizabeth and Wim, who joined us yesterday. Hung out with them for quite a long time yesterday. And all the other new friends we met yesterday in San Martino de Porto, who seemed to have a lovely time. I thought it was going to be much busier, generally speaking, in the town because the Easter holidays are here. A lot of kids around. The kids of San Martino de Porto are very lucky children, just hanging out in the bay, having a great time in the sun. I thought there might be more people from out of town, but there weren't, which worked to our advantage. So a lovely lunch at Palmeira. Hanging out with friends, having a great time. All welcome every Wednesday. We've been consistent, I think, for over a year now, maybe longer, maybe getting off a couple of years. San Martino de Porto, Silver Coast meetup between 1 and 3 every Wednesday. And lots of people have been who are tuned in this morning over time. People pop in, and it's lovely to see that quite a few of our pals here in the chat already have been, I think, to the San Martino de Porto Silver Coast meetup. Let's see what's going on in the chat. T-Duck's here. Only two of the three wise men present at the moment. Maybe Coach Turner's a bit tired from the child wrangling this week, and perhaps he's still training. He's still figuring out how to provide us with some top quality training content that you can do sat in your chair. If you can help him out with that, if there's anything you do while sat in your chair that improves your well-being and physique, do let us know. Don't leave it all to the coach. This is a collaborative community. If you've got any nice little life hacks like that, let us know. Without potato sacks involved, perhaps, James. So yeah, James is here. T-Duck, Paul Richards, who I think also in training. Greetings, says Paul from the Algarve. Oh, it's sunny in the Algarve. Yes, very good. Learn more about the Algarve. Are you in the Algarve, Paul? At 7:30, 19:30 tonight on the Great Debate, Expats Portugal. And yeah, let me just put the slide up for that. Oh my goodness, this just in though. Hold on a minute. Hold on just a moment, folks. Breaking news, coherent. This is what I want to talk about this morning. This is very exciting what's going on behind the scenes here. Breaking news. That'll be the UK Independent, I think, that logo. Coherent radio signal detected. Well, they've got an advantage over us with that then. A coherent radio signal detected from alien planet, prompting hope in search for life. Now, it turns out, let me just show you the slide that I wanted to show you, which is the other great bit of breaking news today, which is the Great Debate. So we've got signals coming in from outer space, and we'll have signals coming in from all over Portugal tonight for the Great Debate. Which is the best region to live in mainland Portugal? Is it the Porto region, Lisbon region, Alentejo, Algarve, or Central? Find out tonight, 7:30, white shirt on for me, Dickie Bow, splattered with the blood of the combatants, I think, in that first bout tonight. Somebody's going to get rejected, eliminated from that bout tonight. And so be there for that, 7:30 on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel, as they fight it out. And I oversee and chair and referee that. So we've got that big breaking news. Where's the best place to live? In Portugal. But look, breaking news of the radio signal. Now, I've got the GMP team are beavering away behind the scenes, talking to our friends at NASA, trying to decode what's going on with the coherent radio signal that's come from outer space. And I hope to bring you within the next few minutes a first here on Good Morning Portugal. You know us, we do our best to be at the cutting edge of consciousness. I know it always doesn't look like it, but believe you me, behind our calm exteriors, sometimes it looks like we're having a snooze in the chair, but beneath that calm, deeply calm exterior is a rippling, energetic bundle of cutting edge conscious inquiry. Is that okay? That's fine. It's not a bit of toast stuck on my beard. Okay, so they are beavering away. Our people, NASA's people, are working on that radio signal, and I hope to be able to bring that to you. I was working on it before the start of the show. My tea's going cold. We've been working very hard to decode this signal to see what it means for humanity. I mean, that's big news, isn't it? I mean, if you were thinking to yourself, what next? What now? There it is, the breaking news. Coherent radio signal detected from alien planet, prompting hope in the search for life. And I will be playing the recording of that communication, such as it is, and decoding it here on the Good Morning Portugal show. So I think maybe you could tell, it's a bit like War of the Worlds, isn't it, here? You could tell friends that guy on Good Morning Portugal that I've told you about, he has actually got the recording of the sound coming in from outer space, and he will be decoding it. Hello? About 1:45. Yeah. So in about 7 minutes, we should have that recording and what it means for all of humanity. Please tell your friends, if they haven't already thought to themselves, Good Morning Portugal, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, this is it. They can be here to tell their grandchildren with you, and they will thank you forever that they were here in this special, historic, depending on which way you say it, moment for humanity. Okay, let's take a look then. Deep thinking, Portuguese speaking, and who knewing Quem Sabia this morning from T-Duck. Yeah, thanks T-Duck for all of this. I hope you feel better soon. Bon dia, Gumpers from T-Duck at 4 minutes past 8 this morning. Deep thought then from Aldous Huxley. I think Aldous Huxley is going to be giving us some good value for the next few days. Saying here, one believes things because does this pertain to our alien communication, I wonder? You will see at about 1:45. One believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them. Well, I think that's true. If you get a rim shot for philosophy, there it is right there. Aldous Huxley was nominated for the backstory continues about Aldous. Interesting name, isn't it, Aldous? I wonder what the origins of that are. Maybe we'll find out in the coming days. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature 9 times and was elected Companion of Literature by the Royal Society of Literature in 1962. Very good. And Portuguese saying of the day, gostos não se discutem. Tastes are not discussed. There's no accounting for taste. Never explain yourself anyway, Gumpers. We like being here, loving Portugal. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is Quem Sabia. We have got Fabrizio and Ian joining us in about 20 minutes as well. Oh, yeah, let me tell you what's coming today. Sorry, I just got discombobulated by the news from outer space. So with our Hola Bon Dia Alegria ticker tape running across the bottom of the screen, Fab and Ian are back at 9 this morning, contemplating Portugal's national housing crisis from their unique perspective as consultants who help people find new lives and homes, specifically in the capital. But they'll have something to say about this housing crisis, about which Bobby O'Reilly, he was keen to comment on the posting of this show with Fabrizio and Ian talking about it. And he says, a comment from him, let me just... I'll download that for later. But housing crisis, we have a political crisis and a planning crisis. We have a shortage of housing crisis because there is a political planning crisis. I wonder what the fellas make of that. We will talk more about the housing crisis at 9. And at 9:30, for the first time here, our friend Ali, who you've seen on the Good Morning Portugal show before, launching books in the morning and in the evening. Great author of wonderful books, and chronicler of her life and Dave in the Algarve. So we'll be talking to her about Snapshot, their new publication, Actually, I'm not sure how new it is, but it's new here and new to you perhaps because it's going to be a monthly residency with Ali joining us on the first Thursday of every month with the new edition, previewing the new edition of the magazine here on Indie Portugal Thursday. So looking forward to talking to Ali at 9:30 as well. So let's get back to Kane Sabia, and just a few moments away from decoding the message from outer space. Kane Sabia, by the early 1970s, Portugal's fast economic growth with increasing consumption and purchase of new automobiles set the priority for improvements in transportation. What comes next after that, I hear you ask? Thank you. In the 1990s, after joining the EEC, the European Economic Community, the country built many new motorways. Today, the country has 68,732 kilometers of road network with a system of 44 motorways. It's pretty elaborate, isn't it? It's sophisticated. One might say a little bit of overcapacity there in anticipation of anticipated vehicular movements around the country. In 1944, the first motorway was an innovative project that made Portugal one of the first countries in the world, to establish a motorway, which eventually became the Lisboa-Cascais Highway, or the A5, as some people have become used to sitting on in hours of traffic thereafter. So the A5, the Lisbon-Cascais road, which people have grown to, love and hate in equal measure, I suspect. But that's just part of 68,732 kilometers of road network with a system of 44 motorways. This little country with 44 motorways. How about that? That's it. Okay, these are dad jokes, aren't they? I nearly read that out. We've got to hold those to the end of the show, the dad jokes there. Thank you for those. James was in as well early on and says to us, Bom dia, Gumpas, Feliz Quinta a todos. Como va? Matty, great for Matty, great for us. And thank you to Matty for stepping in yesterday. Michael Heron couldn't join us. He had a power cut at his end over Cascais, funnily enough. I imagine somebody put a shovel through or a pickaxe through a cable. Happens sometimes, doesn't it? Plunges everyone else into darkness. He wasn't able to join us yesterday. He'll be back tomorrow when Bobby O'Reilly joins us to talk about the Azul Sul, as I'm calling it, the beautiful south. The blue south of the river in Lisbon. Actually, I'll talk to Fabrizio and Ian about that as well, what they think of south of the river. He's back tomorrow, as is Michael Heron. Hopefully, all the electricity is fine now, and they've taped it all back together again, used a few nails and bits of silver foil, and they've patched it up, so he'll be able to join us as well. So you couldn't see him yesterday, but he'll be with us tomorrow, for those of you who missed Michael Heron yesterday. But Matty stepped in manfully, filled those big Heronic boots yesterday, talking about his house purchase. It's a Bom dia alegria a todos, the Pombal Salera from him, and looks like it's going to be another wonderful day here in Pombal. Thank you. And in Cape Town, Bom dia alegria a todos, blessed Easter weekend for those who observe this coming weekend as well. Thank you, Francis, the Portugal sun. And talking to T-Duck is Matty. I thought the first motorway was built in Germany in the 1930s as a means of faster troop movements. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Commissioned by that Austrian that gave Germany a bad reputation later. Matty distancing himself there. Did T-Duck say it was the first in Europe or the first in the country? I wonder. Controversy, not just the alien message, but who had the first motorway in Europe? My goodness. Okay, who knew? I thought it'd be a fairly quiet and easygoing morning after the big full moon. Who's been feeling full moony? Have you? I have. It doesn't take much. Andy Klein here. Good morning, everyone. And after yesterday's show, I was too busy to come over to the meetup. Maybe next week. Time will tell. Well, we look forward to seeing you whenever you can make it, Matty. Suze is here. Oh, look at that. Booked flight to Toronto. For a day in May will be 4,350. It's a huge country. I was talking to the Canadians yesterday. I mean, 12 hours of driving. You're still in Canada. You're still in a small part of Canada, I think. We'll be 4,350 kilometers closer to Portugal. Then, fantastic. And Antonio is here as well. Bom dia a todos. And Paul, what's this? 6th of April, not the 1st. You won't catch us twice. No, it's not me. Has anyone ever been simply combobulated? Who doesn't like to be combobulated first thing in the morning? I know I do. Carl Hyde here. The Englishman in Lisboa is here as well, as is Nuno Mendes. Oh, hello, everybody. And the ancient mariner who is sailing along the Seine in Paris, or has been, so he's literally insane. but we knew that anyway. Metro's Blue Line will be closed. Thank you, Antonio. Public service announcement, April 7th and 10th for signalling reservation. Not a strike on this occasion. Cloudy and chilly in Edinburgh. You're in Edinburgh? What? Really? And who else is here? Oh, that's everybody for now accounted for, because we have this important news. Okay, let's go back to the news that's in from the Independent this morning. Excuse me, Nuno. I do need to take your comment off the screen. I'm so excited here, I could barely speak. And that's something went down the wrong way. Coherent radio signal detected from alien planet. This is an extraordinary moment on the Good Morning Portugal show. It's one small step for these listeners and one giant leap, perhaps, for mankind. Coherent radio signal detected from alien planet, prompting hope in search for life. Paul, this is the Independent reporting this, not me. I saw this morning. I was all over it. Our people spoke to NASA's people, and I am proud to say I can share with you now, in a radio first, an exclusive, the sounds that were coming from outer space, those so-called coherent radio signals. Would you like to hear them? Yes, of course you would. You want to be telling the people who come after you, who call you their ancestor, who listen to that incredible moment of radio history, of human history. Let's hear it now.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome
You hear that?
to another fantastic day.
Incredible. I imagine Elon Musk will be in touch with us later on today. And that little bit at the beginning, this bit, our people, NASA's people, have been working on that as well to understand those sonic hieroglyphics, if that is such a thing. And what it says there is, what they thought it said was, take me to your leader. Now, that at the moment would be a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it? Joe Biden, Richie Sunak. We do not want to do that. No offense to already too late. I've caused offense, I suspect. But really, it doesn't say take us to your leader. It says take us to your visa. And what we understand by that is these people talking to us from outer space they too want to take advantage of the platinum visa. If you listen really carefully, you can hear it. Take us to your visa, the platinum visa. They too want to come to Portugal. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it does sound like craft work in space. Excellent. How about that? Stunned silence in the chat, I think. No one's saying a word. They're on the phone to all their friends, aren't they? It's not just me who wanted to move to Portugal. That alien communication says the same thing. Incredible, huh? That was worth waiting for, wasn't it? Okay. Fabrizio and Ian will be joining us at 9 o'clock in about 10 minutes' time. They're ready to roll here on the Good Morning Portugal show. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to set things up with a little bit of news from the English-speaking papers because we have this perfect housing storm. I did bill this show this morning as the best of worlds and the worst of worlds. Or worst, best of times, worst of times. This is, seriously for a moment, this is pretty bad, this housing crisis situation. Whether or not you frame it as a housing crisis or a political crisis or a planning crisis is another matter. And I'm sure we will talk about these things. But there is a big problem, of course, not least for those of us in this community who are moving to Portugal and want to find somewhere to live. But of course, the people who already live here and the difficulties they are facing. Let's have a look at this piece in the Portugal Resident then. And please do intersperse it with how you're feeling this morning after the full moon and the shocking, quite incredible news there coming from outer space and this housing crisis. What's good about your morning as well? Do tell us, do communicate with us with the normal human method, if you don't mind, because our team are very busy decoding other messages this morning. Portugal Resident then, perfect housing storm. Government accused of politicizing housing without solving the crisis. What? They wouldn't do that, would they? Politicians wouldn't take human suffering and use it as a political football, would they? Perfect housing storm then. Government's final policies. Please, no one face massive... What's this? Oh, the government's final policies, please, no one. Okay. Face massive recourse to courts. Now, the court system is already overburdened, some would say. And this is not what we need. Loads of court cases coming up to try and sort this out. Come on, this is people's lives you're playing with, government. It's your job to sort this out, is it not? We've become so jaded and cynical that the politicians are able to sort anything out for anybody, I think, the world over. So we don't necessarily think, oh, yeah, we'll leave it to the politicians because they'll sort it out. It just seems like more game playing here. Let's find out. Portugal's absolute majority government presented its final draft of the Mais Habitação, More Housing Plan, devised to fix the country's housing crisis against a noisy backdrop of whistles, drum rolls, and chants. We got a few of those. These did not signify any form of jubilation. If anything, the socialist executive has managed to come up with a plan that pleases no one. Not even themselves. That's a shot in the foot, isn't it? From young to old, the poorly paid, the better paid, to wealthy foreign investors, yes, us. The sense of outrage and frustration is palpable. Oh, nobody likes palpable frustration at any time of the night or day. This divisive set of measures, and we will go through them in just a moment, will now go for discussion in Parliament. The idea being that after being approved in the Assembly of the Republic, President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa will give them his rubber stamp. The idea being, the principle that's what technically would happen in the passing of law goes to the president. But whether this actually transpires is another question. I don't think he's happy about it, is he? Constitutionalists have joined the throng, that would be throng, not thong, of detractors, suggesting various parts of the policy are not only unconstitutional, but illegal. You'd have thought they would have come up with something better than some illegal measures, would you not? Mayors in certain boroughs have already said they will not be adopting the more controversial measures, namely coercive leasing. That's gone down very badly, as you might expect. That's the local mayors being in charge of taking housing that's not being used and putting it into rental, people's private property. And investors groups and the real estate sector have warned of the likelihood of a massive recourse to the courts over the scrapping of golden visas. My goodness. Considering President Marcelo has shown he is too far from supportive of the measures affecting private enterprise, the whole plan, in spite of the government's absolute majority, that's a coalition kind of majority, isn't it? Looks on deeply dodgy ground. Or they have a majority, and I think they have friends in Parliament, don't they, who can help. This is more of the political football playing, isn't it? Trading of favours. But it looks like it's on deeply dodgy ground. Who wrote this? That'll be our friend Natasha Don, the Portugal resident, my favourite journalist, English writing journalist in the Portuguese papers. Considering President Marcelo, then, he will be looking at these measures. First, to the final measures, final in inverted commas, because they're not final, because they have to be passed by him, but they are the work in progress of the government. State-owned land or buildings are to be offered up to private developers for development of affordable housing projects. Well, that doesn't seem too bad, does it? They're state-owned, and you could say that the private developers may do a better job, or together tempered by the government. The worst excesses of capitalism plus the worst excesses of statism might come together in a perfect storm to actually provide some housing for people who need it. Taxes on rentals are to decrease from 28 to 25%. That's hefty still, isn't it? But it's and progressively down over the years. That sounds like it makes sense to me. The end of golden visas. So let's get into the controversy then. Wading into the controversy, the end of golden visas. Existing golden visas will be converted into normal residency permits, not platinum gold card holding pastel de nata eating people. New requests will be evaluated according to existing laws. The AL, the Alojamento Local, short-term holiday rentals restrictions will apply to apartments in high-density municipalities, essentially meaning coastal boroughs, Lisbon, Porto, as you might expect. Local councils will manage AL licensing by assessing the need for accessible housing within the municipality. Expect more bureaucracy with that, I suppose. Coercive leasing to apply to apartments which have been considered derelict for at least 2 years. The idea here being after 2 years of being left unused, local councils will offer owners a rental proposal. Sounds like an offer that can't be refused as well. That is godfatherish. That is 30% above the average price in that parish. Oh, that's a sweetener though, isn't it? If the owner refuses or fails to respond, the council will move forwards with coercive leasing. We asked you nicely. We offered you 30% above the going rate, and now we're going to take your house. Ooh, sends a chill down my spine. Rural buildings that aren't being used are to be charged IMI, the housing tax, municipal property tax, as if they were urban properties. Oh, interesting. Government, I mean, that's people are generally in favor, aren't they, of taxation of buildings that aren't being used. But then again, that doesn't mean that people own them and are refusing to do anything with them. It might be because they just cannot afford to do anything with them. So a subsidy for development might help as well, might it not? But maybe that's what the tax could be used for. Government housing support portal Porta 65 Janvier will be open to applications in an attempt to help the emancipation of young adults. Now, a young adult in this instance, I think, is somebody up to the age of about 55 or 60 who still lives at home with their parents. And that's a phenomenon the world over, of course, isn't it? A new program entitled Porta 65 has also been created to help families who've been affected by a reduction of income or for single parents. Expressing perplexity, in inverted commas, at the anger generated by the plan for coercive leasing. I think that's the one that stuck most in the craw. And this map, what is that white bit in the map there that is the exception that proves the rule of the marginal and Porto and Lisbon? Which municipality would that be that's affected by the AL, I wonder? That's inland. I don't know what that is. Forgive me. Somebody else will be able to tell me. Antonio F. might be able to help with that. Expressing perplexity at the anger generated by the plan for coercive leasing, the PM did concede that if some of his executives' measures are considered unconstitutional, we will respect the decision. So that does sound like game playing, doesn't it? Okay, I'm just checking in the comments because, of course not. Okay, we're getting confirmation that politicians never cheat or lie. Funny thing is, in Portugal, the April Fool's Day is called Day of the Liars or Politicians' Day. Such is the esteem held. What is this? Estava com saudade do inverno. I need a translation on that, I think. Lisbon's top temperature today. I'm being distracted. Hold on. Let me come back to the piece here about how well and how badly, actually, in fact, these measures have gone down for Mais Habitation. The constitutionality of the government's proposals will almost certainly be determined in due course. But meantime, tens of thousands of citizens, from those in situations of need to many more in full employment, but without the ability to secure a roof over their heads, took to the streets of 6 cities on Saturday to demand a great deal more than the measures that were presented in a way that smacked of having been designed to take people's attentions from the essential, a political move. The essential is that the majority of people in Portugal today cannot afford to buy their own home or even to rent. And again, that is part of a global phenomenon, isn't it? The gap between rich and poor getting bigger and bigger. The super wealthy being able to buy the assets of the middle classes with their passive income and making it more difficult. I think what's happening is instead of 3 classes, generally speaking, in our sort of neoliberal societies, there are 2, aren't there? There's a super rich and everyone else. But by creating a furore in the private sector, by putting new controls on people's freedoms to rent in any way they would like, by summarily wiping out an investment program, the Golden Visas, without giving any applications in the system any notice, the government has managed to focus attentions on constitutionality and legality. The noise in the press is not so much on the fact that in 7 years of socialism, social housing projects have been shamefully ignored. Yes, but that if it wasn't for Portugal being so popular with foreign investors, national citizens would not be so badly off. Yeah, that to me is a poor and wrong focus. It is a narrative that potentially creates division and resentment. Yes, and again, would politicians create division and resentment in order to bring about their greater goals? Surely not. Don't call me Shirley. When the reality is that there would not be a housing crisis if the government had adopted a housing policy when it took office. Yes, what happened in all this time? I mean, the Tories have been in power for about 300 years, I think, in the UK. They still haven't done most of what they were going to do. They've just created more of a mess. But I mean, that's not a partisan comment. That tends to be what most governments do, right? Instead now, and on the back of billions of euros flooding in from Brussels, yeah, what's happening to all that money? Thanks. And all the tax, all that EVA and fines and stuff and taxes that must be coming into the coffers. Is it all going out to tap straight away? Is there like a tap? that just is open all the time, and all the money comes in from Brussels and from taxpayers' money, and it just goes to fund TAP at the other end. Maybe I'm getting overtly political. I should be a bit more independent in the management of this conversation this morning. We can do the rest of this article, cover the rest of this article with our excellent guests this morning. I'll take it off the screen for a moment and welcome them now into what is an incredible morning of talking about the housing crisis in Portugal and the alien contact this morning. Let's give them a nice big round of applause. It would be Fabrizio and Ian in the capital. Good morning, gentlemen. Were you
Good morning.
behind the scenes hearing all that malarkey being reported there? How are you this morning, first of all? Let me just check.
Good, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And perhaps keen to get going and get started on what we were just hearing about there. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in a lot of it, and I think there's also a lot of truth in what you said as well. There's a part of it which is a kind of now this global phenomenon, and it's funny. I guess talking from an expat point of view, thinking back like 10 or 12 years ago, we were seeing the same kind of things in London of these big demonstrations because London house prices at that time were too high for most people to afford. And now it's obviously gone even worse. And that's not the only country, you know what I mean? So it seems a global problem around the world of this pattern slowly moving around that says, oh yes, here we go. Now everybody can't afford anything anymore.
Yep.
So there is that side of it. And I think the other one, though, is not just the global issue, but also that Portugal has some very unique issues, regarding that. It's not even like there is realistically, when you look around, a shortage of housing.
Quite.
Especially if you look around the capital. I mean, yes. We were saying the other day we could wander around the area here, and I think a good challenge would be to say that if I went like 100 meters radius of this place, I could probably find 100 apartments that are sitting there empty.
Yeah.
Actually more, I could probably find 200 apartments sitting there empty.
People notice it, don't they?
And some of those are very obvious because you can see the new builds, but they're never occupied. Like we have one over the other side from us, where at the back you can see all the balconies, and it's very clear that out of the 10 apartments there, only 3 of them have ever seen any signs of life in the last 5 years. So that's a sad effect to think that a lot of people must have bought those as investment properties, and they would just sit there, brand new properties, completely empty.
Yeah, that's the other side of the.
So there is one side of that, which goes back to your thing about the wealthy, buying things, which is just a thing to say, oh yes, Lisbon prices are going up, so therefore, we'll profit from the fact that eventually we will sell them on, for extra money. So there's a sad side to that. But of course, the other side of that then is a lot of boarded up properties, and that is a real historic, issue with Lisbon. One of which most people will say is down to that they've lost track of who owns the property. So obviously, as someone has died, often their portion of that property may be passed down to relatives, and then there becomes a whole group of people who are arguing about what they want to do with the property or don't want to do with the property, or they can't trace people. So in which case those properties just get left empty until that gets resolved. And despite all the promises of what you've just heard there with the government, of course, this is not going to change because those properties now, many of them are in a very bad state of repair, and you can't just bring them onto the market tomorrow and stick people in there to rent them because there's not enough of a building left to rent.
Exactly.
We have one over the road which has been empty since we've been here, so that's 5 years now. And actually, the roof is now just collapsing.
Oh,
and and actually the only shop there's a shop downstairs, there's a pharmacy at the bottom, but the next 5 floors now have always been empty, and it all has been bricked up for the last 3 years. And that's another 8 apartments. I can sit here and look out the window and say there's 8 apartments people could live in if that building had been kept in good shape and renovated. And the other weird one that Portugal had for this long one was renda antiga, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is the idea that
you can have
the rent would never increase. So it wasn't the fact that it was rent controlled, it was rent controlled with 0 increase. And so there are properties now which are still left empty, there's a building actually which is up for redevelopment in our street, and there's 2 properties there that went out for sale, probably half the market value. But for the reason that they will have to renovate the whole building, but those people are staying in there, and the rent for those people is €40 a month. I think it's €44 a month.
Good
for
for
a
them.
3-room apartment in Elizabeth.
Wow.
You pay.
Yeah.
But of course, you can see what happened over time was the fact that a whole building full of people are only paying that. The buildings fall into disrepair. The landlord has no money to spend on it. If you have 10 apartments paying €40 and you get problems with the roof.
Yeah, there will not be condominium. There will not be any of those structure into place. So nobody.
Yeah, the people are renting it, so they're not the ones to be putting money in to actually repair them. So that's another one where it's a weird one. I'm sure as a foreigner to hear this, but that is sold with the people being in there, with the notion realistically that when they are no longer with us, then that whole apartment building will come up for redevelopment, and obviously will be worth a lot of money. So you can see those, you can see the side of it, which is that I think that whichever political party is there are big challenges on those to try and sort out any of those issues.
Yeah.
And if those issues have been sorted out, then we will be in a different situation today.
Quite so. So political inaction, and this is the funny thing, isn't it, with politicians, is that they're not accountable, are they, for the past? Generally speaking, it's like, look over here, look over here.
No,
I think they call it. It's actually called poster law, isn't it, in Portugal, whereby make a pamphlet or a poster and stick it up on the wall, and people talk about that instead of talking about, hold on a minute, your performance, these promises you've been making, all the things you've been saying. None of these have come true. And, I guess what recourse do people have apart from to trudge to the ballot box again next time to hear more of the same and then unfulfilled promises? So something definitely needs to happen with this. And your points are incredible, as well as your assessment, your lived assessment as you look out of your window, your lived life and experience. So if only pigeons paid rent, right? That could be a way of renting.
Oh, we will be.
That would sort it out.
With Texas, yeah.
Because there are some of the best house pigeons in all of the world living in prime real estate all over Portugal, aren't there?
Indeed, there is.
Friends there. Yeah, so and it's all about the short-termism set against this whole global picture that we seem to be agreeing on. That and I made a joke of it. This Jovem way of releasing young people from the homes of their parents. But these people aren't youths necessarily, are they? They could be 35, 45, 55 and still living at home. I know that goes on in Portugal, as it does around the rest of the world. And people, I think it's the Generation X, isn't it? The baby boomers were all right. They kind of got the updraft of that property explosion and buying their own homes and all that went with that. But their children are not quite so lucky. And the baby boomers say, all you have to do is work hard and you'll be fine. You can be like us. You can buy your house for £3.
And then everybody's playing catch up. It's kind of, you earn a bit more, but then it goes up a bit more.
It's not true anymore, is it?
It's not. It's quite a realistic perspective. And it's very hard to then justify the option to kids to go and, for example, go and study at university because one day you will get a better job. Because there's many perspectives that any of us probably had, or any of us, or probably the generation even before us, had at one point in their life with no more pattern of life, no more education, or none. The future generation or present generation will not have.
Yeah. So some structural change must occur with this. Otherwise, that's a particularly chilling picture you paint there. If wealthy investors can just buy property that sits empty, that to me is worst case scenario. That's what gives the golden visa a bad name, isn't it? But if people are actually coming to Portugal and they're spending money and they're buying property and they're using it, then fair play. I think there should be a balance of that, along with obviously the main problem here, which is the creation of social housing. So were you in favour of that move to give the empty houses of the government own themselves and maybe have these, what are they, public-private initiatives to create social housing? There's definitely an absence of social housing, isn't there? Then they've taken their eye off that and they're not talking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's no reason why a state-owned property, a property owned by the state, which should be, between brackets, an organization that is for the benefit of the people and promoting activities and life enhancing measures for the people, to be there empty, not generating any sort of increase, but not just revenue, but just not generating any life enhancing move for the inhabitants of the city, which are people that vote, people that pay their taxes, people that can even, people that work, or people that cannot at the same time too, because we're not all in the productive. There's elderly people that need social housing, the people with low income that need social housing, and the more hybrid the situation becomes. For example, this over the road in central Lisbon could be an organization of social housing accommodation. Will make everything more hybrid, will not create any sort of out of town ghettos, and I don't see anything bad in that. No. Just about time, probably.
I think it's probably a similar problem. I think some of these things should have been tuned. The golden visa one is a good example, because I often wonder why with the golden visa, because much of that can also be done on commercial property.
Yeah.
And I always wondered why the government didn't say, well, rather than do it on commercial property, you put money into building social housing. So you get your income off that is whatever the rental is that comes in off the social housing, as an incentive, rather than just saying you can build a shopping centre or something else. I mean, I know there's an importance to doing that, but that will happen anyway, irrespective of whether you give somebody from abroad the opportunity to come and buy a visa just to contribute to doing something.
Yeah, what a great idea. It's not that difficult, is it?
No. And then even on the other one, why not make it a priority to say you can't, the golden visa is also not issued to somebody who just wants to buy a property but can leave it empty, because that's the bad side of gold. That's what people see. That's what I also see as a bad side. That's why sometimes I kind of say, well, I'm not sure whether golden visa is such a good idea, because it can be, there is many circumstances where it's exploited. I get the point of people coming here and actually saying, let's buy somewhere and I want to live here because I'm contributing to the country and everything else. Yeah, that's the whole idea between that and the D7 and D2 and everything else. Yes, you are here, you are paying your money into the country for whatever reason, you're doing it good. Whereas actually just buying somewhere and leaving it empty just because, it's almost like something on your mantelpiece to say, oh, look, I've got a property in Lisbon and it's going to earn me this amount of money this year. Why,
Exactly. We're all about that here. And Lucinda likes your idea. Excellent idea. A new
Hi,
name
Lucinda.
on the screen. Hi, Lucinda. And we've got Ocean Dweller Aviva saying housing is an issue in many parts of the world. Of course, we understand that. I don't think this is Portugal specific at all.
No.
But it is specific at the moment for us, because it's what's being kicked around as a political football, and it's brought to the front, and centre for us to discuss here. And so I think we can agree on that. The whole golden visa idea, where people are just buying trophy properties that they're going to sit on, or not even sit on, be it on the other side of the world, and having nothing to do with while they're empty. That affects people's quality of life in this country.
And also then you can see that why people get so angry about it, because I'm sure, we can't be the only one that sits and looks out of a window and says, look at that property there, it's empty.
Well, right. And they're conspicuous by their volume, aren't they? I mean, it didn't matter did it, in the early days of the golden visa, when of course, humans always, they're going to be wealthy humans who have apartments all around the world, and they can't live in them all. But when they become ghost apartments, that's the problem. And when they become ghost apartments at big volume, so it's everywhere, and it kind of, that's what happened in London, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah. Because ghost apartment creates ghost neighborhoods.
Yeah. And we don't want that. I think we can be the Gumpers here, our community, all the people I work with, talk with. We want to we know we're going to make an impact. It's unrealistic to think you're not going to make an impact and change things, especially with the level of migration into Portugal. We need to embrace that, talk about it and discuss it, and be responsible for it, right? And I think it does come with some responsibilities, and looking at our impact is a great thing, and ensuring that we're a positive influence and phenomenon, a positive phenomenon for the country. And that comes, I think, through conversation and perhaps being involved in these political.
Well, I was going to say that's one thing, isn't it? Because it's another thing to say, we could go on the other way and say, well, why aren't you proposing? Can we think of ways to propose it because of the impact that we're making on it, as well? Because obviously there are positive sides to it. So that can't be denied. It's the same problem with the logement locale and all those, it's in a country that is so dependent on tourism, then there's always going to be a sticking point to say, you can't just get rid of it. So
exactly.
It's a struggle to do that.
But at the same time, there's a proportion level against real accommodation and real homes and people's life, which it does have an impact. So it's a double-edged sword.
I think it probably also comes back to the whole, because the original Airbnb philosophy was the fact that it was the idea if somebody has a spare room in your place and you want to make a bit of money, so you rent it out.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big criticism of Airbnb, and it's kind of that's the thing. That's what goes away. It's the fact that you shouldn't just be
renting a property for an incredibly inflated price for the entire property for a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. That's not the concept that
and that would make it easier
was,
because then people would be less prone just to buying entire loads of apartments just to rent.
And I think the people of the neighborhood know best, don't they? The mayor, the local politicians, the local people know best what affects their area. They live there. That's where they have their lives. You would hope and think that rather than the centralized decisions that say it's a percentage or it's a numbers game, there should be, I think, discretion and consultation at a local level so that people can influence the effect these things have in their own neighborhood. But that, again, that's another phenomenon of global politics at the moment. I think it's centralization, which abstracts their political thought from the effect it has in neighborhoods. So hopefully there'll be a bit more of that, and that'll be devolved to local level. James makes a great point. We've had guests who have quoted statistics that show this is what Bobby O'Reilly says, is what we've been saying all along. A very small number of golden visa applications and holders. So providing this is correct, the issue is not primarily a golden visa problem. It's not. But that's not to say that investment is all golden visas either, is it?
No.
A lot of people who are buying investment properties are not necessarily golden visa. I mean, these might be Portuguese wealthy people who are buying properties.
Right. Exactly, and there's plenty of it. Yeah.
Or Europeans as well, because of course we talk about golden visa, but we don't. There's. Another part of it that I've noticed in many newspaper articles, especially in Portugal, there's been quite a bit of, unjustly, I think, quite a bit of American bashing on this. Like these rich Americans, but it's not to say the rich French, the rich Germans, the rich Scandinavians all haven't done it before. And rich Londoners, haven't also done it, so it is more of a problem than just concentrating on the visa issue.
And the foreigners, absolutely. People coming over here, taking the jobs and buying all the stuff. You can blame them for everything, can't you? If you don't examine what's really going on. So this could sound like gloom and doom, fellas. There you are in Lisbon. You are helping people move to the capital and find properties. On the face of it, this sounds like a very difficult situation. But if I know you, I suspect you are finding ways around this, and it's not all bad. It's just a little bit controversial at the moment. What's your view on it from a more of a personal and professional point of view? I think it's still okay.
Needs more prepping, really, in terms of expectation and complication than one might encounter within the process.
Because it's also, of course, there's also just is a lack of properties. That's the other part. So, I think people have come with an expectation of price and now realize actually that price has inflated considerably to, what they may have seen, especially if they've looked at videos for, the last couple of years of people that often mention this. There's been quite a significant rise in prices.
So we would like to say to everyone that is listening to this and to the world, entire world, that a video from a year ago talks about a world which does no longer exist. Even a video from 6 months ago, more than likely. So do not come here with a set idea that this is what it will happen to you in this kind of process, in this kind of sequence. And So yeah.
I mean, so it's not doom and gloom from that point of view. It's just setting expectations. I think we've said this before. This is a very difficult problem because you have to say to people, "Oh, yeah, I know, but you won't get what you think with that."
Quite, but you still can live here.
You still can live
you
here.
can.
You can
and have and live a great quality of life. I mean,
Exactly.
Louisa and I did our Hello America, this is Portugal show on Tuesday night, and we opened up our books, our bills, and shared with people what it costs us to live here. We showed people the bills, the back office of EDP and the Alcabasa camera, what we pay for water, what we pay for internet, all of that. We were saying we were somewhat I don't know, we felt very spoiled afterwards because we thought it's actually quite expensive compared to UK for some of these things, the on the technological side, not the water, and electricity's going up, gas is going up, and then people were telling us what they pay in America, and it's like, shut up, Carl and Louisa, you're living a fantastic life in Portugal.
Exactly.
Wind it in, calm down. It really isn't that bad. So we do have to temper what's going on, don't we, with the incredible quality of life that's available. And you're absolutely right to do the caveat on the videos. These YouTubers, and I think we are part of it, aren't we? Here we are every month talking about Portugal. We're part of the phenomenon, but we've seen it come and go, haven't we? I mean, I would like to think us here, we're a steady and supportive and realistic influence in this YouTubing phenomenon. Because I remember it when it was like, someone standing in a field with 3 rocks by their feet, which was their house they'd bought. I mean, those were the early days of YouTubing in Portugal. And come to Portugal, buy 3 rocks in a field for 5,000 euros. And that was overinflated at the time as well, wasn't it? That should only have been 1,000 or 500 euros to a Portuguese. Right, and so then it all changed, didn't it? To move to Lisbon. Yeah. And these very slick videos were being made. And what we've seen as well in the last year or two, people have come and gone as well, haven't they? We never, it's fascinating to watch this. I watched another video last night of somebody who, so poetically describing Portugal and their love of Portugal. And the video is called I Just Left Portugal, I think. And, life changes. To be fair to them, they didn't have a beef with Portugal. They got made a better offer work-wise. Yeah. But whilst all of these whilst all the hyperbole and political stuff that's going on at the moment will come and go, there is still this baseline of, I think, of goodness and greatness of the lifestyle we're enjoying in Portugal.
Oh yeah, and realistically, down the checklist of what it can offer or not, it can either do for you or not do for you, or do for you at one point and no longer do that. It's a part of leaving somewhere. We are lucky that at least we can have this conversation because we deal our clients. There are people that do a move or is thinking of a move according to a path of changing life from a place to another one. We don't deal with investors, so we can actually at least talk about this set of priority before others, which with investors will be a completely different set of conversations, I suppose.
Yeah, and so people can be in touch with you. Your caveat is okay. You watched the video last year; it's not quite the same. Things are moving at quite a pace, but that's part of the success in a strange sort of way, isn't it? Of a place. Things change. There will be. It's different. It's different now, but it's still fabulous. Let's say that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
People can get in touch with you. Project.
We wouldn't regret it.
No. What are your other caveats for people? So they might be a little bit alarmed by a bit of foreigner bashing.
Yeah, I mean, part of it that has been alarmed. Part of it, I think, is just also areas, because that's the point. I think we've said this before as well. A lot of people always think, that, or the downtown idea, or I have to be close to, but they don't really know what they have to be close to because they don't know the city.
The tram.
So, you know what I mean? They have this idea. I have to be close to downtown because of this, but they don't really know what that is. And also the fact that you can get better areas outside of that, because that's not to say in the metropolitan areas, also other areas that people could be looking at. And that may be of more interest also to them, once they start to realise.
And Lisbon is a small place that for 20 minutes journey, my voice is going.
It's a shame. What's going on?
I'm turning into some kind of Bonnie Tyler.
Once upon a time, there was light in your life. And
now I'm just falling apart.
Totally clips of the larynx by the sound of it.
That's it. But 20 minutes journey can take you from a place to another one and have two completely different situation. You can be out of town on the map and then 20 minutes away. We came, for example, to Lisbon, and we had a sense of dimension of the city for us Londoners, which London is just, as you know, incredible. In an hour, we'll get from Stockwell to Fulham to go to work.
And then you say,
you can go to.
I've got to think about leaving again because there's going to be terrible traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities both north and south of the river as well. I think. Don't always think.
We're talking about that tomorrow, south of the river. I've got to talk to you about being Biberian as well, because you've been very influential in my thinking here. Because last time we spoke, you just got back from Spain, of course. So
that's right.
Just summarise this first bit about the housing crisis. Yes, there is trouble at Tip Mill with politically. And there is a serious problem for the people of Portugal and affordable housing. There's no question about that. Some of the more hyperbolic parts of this conversation are causing a lack of confidence possibly around the world. But the message from you would be, come on in, the water's still lovely. It's different, but the water's still lovely.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
without doubt.
Yeah.
Actually, we wanted to do some photos. Did we send you any photos?
Yeah. Well, for example, yesterday it was. Yesterday it was suddenly 27 degrees, and we
thought, we must get some photographs for you, which we forgot to send to you. And so we travelled all the way to the beach to get some photographs for you, but we'll send them to you.
South of the river, then. So let's talk about that. Did you go across the bridge, or did you go west?
Across the bridge. Across the bridge.
So what do you think of this? I've got a few names for this: the Azul Sul, the Sul Escondido, the Hidden South. And I had another one as well, which I forget now, but we'll be talking about it more in tomorrow morning. But this is an incredible asset or undiscovered wealth, treasure.
In fact, even the walks, because we were kind of thinking, now's the time to go out walking. If you want to do it, this is the time of year. If you want to do any of these big walks along the coast and all that kind of thing before it gets too hot. Yeah. So we were also talking about that the other day, and that's what we did. Actually, we walked along the top of the cliffs and then went down towards the beach.
And geographically, it's just across the road.
Across the road, and
And you can drive, you can get the bus, you can get the train.
Drive, And also, actually, that's another part about the south is that the transport system changed. So it used to be transport. Anyway,
so transport.
They've got that's right.
TST,
and they were awful. But Caris, who are the ones here, there's now a new version of Caris which do further afield than just the main Lisbon area.
Yeah,
and they've added extra services on. In fact, I saw an article this week. They've added on more night services now too. South of the river.
The many electrics. The many of them that electric.
Yeah, it's true. There's the train. There's a little metro system over there. So I think people forget that's.
It's incredible. And you talk about crossing London and that taking an hour or more. You can be south of the river in 20 minutes, can't you? If you're fairly close to one of the stations on the north side, jump on one of those beautiful double-decker trains, and then you can be jumping off on the other side, discovering Sejal and all those wonderful areas around there. Pick up an Uber or something on the other side to take you to a beach. Or Costa de Caparica. That's a bus ride.
It's a bus ride. Yeah. It's like 40 minutes or something.
Yeah, incredible.
So, Stockholm to Fulham. Yes.
Let's say it's a little bit prettier. You're seeing the Cristo Rey in the distance as your landmark, aren't you? You're crossing the iconic April 25th bridge. It's a wonderful thing to do, and it's great to hear that the buses have been improved a bit, because I remember some of those buses on the south, the air conditioning was opening the window in the height of summer. They were a bit rattly, weren't they, some of those old buses? But they've been all upgraded now, have they?
Oh, yeah. They've all been upgraded, but they put a lot more routes on as well, and they're a lot more frequent than they used to be. So they're slowly improving it more and more by the looks of it. So I think that happened about a year and a half ago when it first started, and now it's getting into swing. There was a lot of confusion in the first stage because they changed all the bus numbers and nobody knew where they were going.
Not on April the 1st. They actually did that.
They actually did that. And it wasn't just a small change. It was like thousands different. There was completely different numbers. It wasn't like they added a number on or something. So there was a lot of confusion.
I think they probably streamlined the numbering of the routes itself, because at the beginning there was so many numbers. It looked like phone number.
Right.
Yeah, like postcode or something. Yeah, but no.
So, we've upset somebody now. Look, I'm from Fulham, but I've got to give it to Lisbon.
Prettier than Fulham. How dare you?
So we lost
Well, okay. So sorry, no pun intended. It took a long time to get there, but yeah, cool. but no, plenty of time that I cycle across Battersea Park, and it was even prettier from
It
that.
is, yeah.
So,
all right. Those London bridges are nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
It does. Not everything has to be a competition, but
No.
fair enough, Tabitha. Sorry if we caused any offence with that remark. I'm from Fulham, from the beautiful Queen's Club Gardens. You know, that's my part of town. But yeah, still, I think if I had to choose between the two, if the sword of Damocles was hanging over these, or King Solomon was asking me, it's got to be Portugal and Lisbon for me. Sorry, Fulham. Okay, thank you, fellas. Stick around because I want to introduce you to Ali, who's here. But thank you for that, your insight there, and your excellent thoughts and observations as ever. If people want to get in touch with you and use your services, and come on in and try that water, which is still lovely here in Portugal, Project Lisboeta. Just one more thing before you go. You were in Spain. You showed us the lovely pictures. We had a little slideshow of Spain, didn't we, when you came back last time?
We did.
And this has been furnishing a growing idea and inspired a little offshoot of the Good Morning Portugal show. You play a large part in this. Iberian FM. We have a little phone in to unite the people of Portugal and Spain and their love of the grand peninsula that we are part of. Gibraltarians also welcome. Andorians also welcome, if that's what they're called. And a little bit of southern France, because it's all part of the Iberian Peninsula. And we've discovered a new thing, being Biberian. Some people love Portugal. Look at this. Some people love Portugal. Some love Spain. Some can't decide. You might be Biberian. And like
we're very happy to help people to come out
as fully Biberian. I mean, it's not that difficult a process, is it? I mean, some people just are Biberian, then just don't know it yet.
Yeah. Just it needs some self investigation and try at least once.
At least once. But if you find yourself eating a lot of tapas, perhaps, or thinking about Madrid, you could.
I believe being Biberian is quite an interesting option because they are very close geographically. Situations, but they're utterly different from one from the other.
Isn't that
so hybrid? So I guess it's a quite interesting shoes to fill, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. We'll bring Ali into this conversation. Let's give her a nice big round of applause.
All right. Hey, Ali.
Alyson Sheldrake, to give her full and proper and posh title. Ali to us, our friend. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for inviting me back. It seems like ages since I've been chatting to you, so you sound like you've been busy.
We have been. We are exploring our Biberian selves here this morning as the part of the crossover conversation here. Now, of course, that's very possible in the Algarve. I know I'm putting you on the spot. You knew nothing about this, but how are you? Do you find yourself longing for tapas? Do you pop across the border? Do you go over the Guadiana, or is it all Portugal for you?
All Portugal for me, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. In fact, we've moved. When we first lived here, when we bought a house, we were Faragudo, which is slightly west of the centre of the Algarve, if you like, just before Lagos and the sort of western. We sold that and we bought in Algesur, which is almost on the Alentejo border, right on the west coast. So we're as far away from Spain, I think, as you can get now. So that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? About which one we've chosen.
Yeah. So Fulham and Spain can be offended now.
Probably, that's fine. And we've got lots of friends, funnily enough, who live sort of Tavira or Olhão, which are actually great locations if you do want to just jump across into Spain. I know lots of them do. The petrol's cheaper for starters. So I actually know quite a few people quite near the eastern border who drive to Spain to fill up. I kind of scratch my head and I think by the time you've driven to the first petrol station in Spain and back again, surely you've lost about a third of a tank. But
it's the principle that matters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, isn't it? It's the Scottish and Yorkshire expats who do that sort of thing, I think.
Although when we went, strange enough, I did that. I thought, I'm not going to fill up till we go to Spain. And it was during in Spain than it was in Portugal. The first time I'd ever seen that. I was very disappointed.
Oh dear. And you think, I'm not a smoker, but I'm going to buy some cheap cigarettes in Spain. Give me some cigarettes. I want to enjoy the bargains.
Fabrizio had been pushing the car for like 10 minutes to the station just to get it there.
I need a cigarette after there.
Look at it. I thought it was one thing to open that can of worms of Iberianism, but we've got Transberians now, and Europeans and
Eurofluid. We support you all, sisters and brothers, under the same flag.
Under the same flag here this morning.
And we embrace you and recognize you and see you.
Yes, absolutely. Sounds inky, bi-European. It does, doesn't it? Okay. Before you go, chaps, are you okay for a few more minutes? Because I want you to see Ali's lovely publication that she's here to talk about, and will be every month from here on. It is a monthly. It occurred to me this morning, Ali. It is a monthly, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank goodness for that, because a monthly residency might be a little bit difficult if not. And here it is, Snapshot. Let's open up. Let's go into the magazine. It's absolutely beautiful. There we go with the contents. Would you like to talk us through it? Actually, before you talk us through the current edition, what possessed you to start a magazine? It's not an easy thing to do, is it?
Well, no, and actually the pages you put up are perfect, because I always smile when I look at that and think, I think we were 98 pages for the April edition. When we first started it, we moved out here permanently 12 years ago. Started doing creative things, my art, Dave's photography. And initially, we started a very small newsletter to keep in touch mainly with family and friends. So the first edition was literally just over 10 years ago, we put it out. And it was 4 pages of A4. And it literally went to, I think we had about 48 subscribers, and that was it. And I faithfully, every month since then, have built up our little newsletter. And then January last year, it just exploded. I'd made so many contacts with all the writing and the work I'd been doing. And we know so many people now, particularly around the Algarve, that it just naturally grew into a magazine. And everyone sort of stopped saying, will you stop calling it a newsletter? So I jokingly now call it the newsletter that thinks it's a magazine, because it's a glossy online free edition every month. But it's, as you're flicking through it, you can see it's full of so many different things. I always share Dave's photography. And whatever art I've been painting for the month. So those are the first 2 big things that are always in there. And then we have a big section called, I've just pulled some pages. What you're flicking through are just literally snapshot pages of give you an idea of what's in there, really. Hang on there a sec, because that's life in the Algarve. You find life in the Algarve. We always do lots of things that are happening in the Algarve each month. So I try and cover a bit of the history or something interesting that's happening. Obviously, we've got Dia de Liberdade this month, so it's a lot of people don't really know what that means. Why have we got another bank holiday at the end of April? So a little bit about that. I always put in any exhibitions or events that are happening. The page you've got there, if anyone's free this week, Stephen Powell is a brilliant author. He literally walked from the northeast to the southwest corner of Portugal.
Really?
Wrote a book about it. And it actually follows what you were talking about earlier, because he found so many villages that were almost abandoned, or that just had people over the age of 60 living in it. All of the younger people had left to either Lisbon or abroad to gain work. And it's a fascinating snapshot, really, of Portugal, rural Portugal, northern Portugal in particular, and the people he met. He's fluent in Portuguese, which helps. He worked in Brazil. He's an ex-Reuters journalist.
Wow.
He knows his stuff, and his book, Walking Europe's Edge, is brilliant. But he's doing a live book signing this Saturday, so we're going to that. So we always share events like that are happening, because I think it's nice to be able to say, look, this is what's happening here. And then, I don't know if you can jump back to the next page.
I've got to stop.
Little stories in as well.
I've got to stop it there, because I'm inspired by this guy who's walked Portugal.
Yeah.
I just want to
I'm on the show for you.
Fabrizio and Ian on the screen here. Are you guys happy sticking around for a bit longer?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I don't want to kind of doorstep you there, and you're thinking we've got to go, and we can't leave the screen. But you tell me when you want to go, because it's lovely to be involved in this conversation. I hope for you and discover these incredible people that Ali's finding. Ali, bring him next time. If like with your guests in the magazine, bring him along. To me, what a legend that guy sounds like.
Yeah, and he's lovely. I'll link you up. You can have him on the show because he's a really nice guy as well.
That's terrific. We've got a bit of catching up to do, because I think you were going to reference the housing crisis, and we've got a little bit of catching up to do with people in the comments here. So let's bring it. Let's include everyone in the comments, and we'll come back to the wonderful Snapshot magazine, which is amazing. And what you've done there is quite incredible. The newsletter that thinks it's a magazine, it truly is, isn't it? We have a question as well. We've got Darren in with us. Suze has joined us as well. Catherine Whitby. A question from Darren. We'll come back to in just a moment. Bon dia, Alegria Gumpers arrived Spokane just now after 26 hours of flights and layovers from Lisbon. Excited about our return already in October. Well, you take it easy, rest well, and we'll see you in October. And they loved VRSA down there in the Algarve. Guys, is everything closed tomorrow? From your lived experience then, Ali, the Algarve on Good Friday, what's it like?
No, most things are open. And funnily enough, I chatted our local fruit and vegetable market, Petra, that runs one of the stalls. I was chatting to her on Tuesday, and we had a joke because there was a big sign posted up by the market, and I couldn't get the Portuguese because the literal translation said that it will be exceptionally something, and I couldn't work out what it was, but they're open.
Exceptionally open.
Exceptionally open. Only in Portugal would they say it was exceptionally open instead of just
Estimados clientes. We are exceptionally open tomorrow.
Exceptionally open. So I think all the big stores are open. Obviously, all of the camera and all of the council offices and post office will be closed. But I think.
What about Lisbon, fellas? What's that like on a Good Friday?
I think same. I think actually last time there was not. It's pretty much most things are open. Some of the smaller shops closed, don't they? Actually, I've noticed some of them don't bother opening, but most of the big stores and supermarkets will be.
Which is what
I haven't checked. I know sometimes the supermarkets close early.
It might have a
just
Sunday.
check if you have to do those. I can't remember. I remember some of them were closed like at 1 or 3 rather than the normal.
Do not have a British barbecue that starts at 5 in the afternoon where you drive to the supermarket to get the stuff. You need to start a little bit.
Because you forgot you were doing it.
And people is already there. Yeah.
Lots of places propped up with scaffolding in prime areas. We're talking about Lisbon again, but you might have comments about this in the Algarve as well, Ali. Prime areas, beautiful old buildings crumbling into dust. Such a shame. Joao F is back. Good morning, everybody. Been away for a while, missing in action. Lovely to see you back, Joao F. On the idea of housing, an issue in many parts of the world, of course it is. And we've been talking about the golden visa and, of course, inflation, which is affecting most people in most parts of the world as well. Availability of housing and the incomes don't keep pace with inflation. Did they ever, I wonder? There is a rule in Boulder, Colorado, where builders must set aside a percentage of affordable units for every project they build. That's a good idea. Also, there are local subsidies for locals who earn modest incomes, as it should be, right? One thing I appreciate about Finland, Suze was in Finland, no homeless problem. You don't want to be homeless in Finland, do you? They find housing for all in need there. Were you going to add something there, Fabrizio?
Huh?
I thought you were going to add something.
No. I was just scratching my beard. Sorry.
Okay, no, we can both do that, can't we? I can watch today. Ali, the only beardless one here.
I'm just sat here thinking I'm really missing out here, aren't I?
I can't watch today, but I'm listening on headphones. Excellent conversation. From a protest flight. Oh, this is interesting. So up in Aveiro, contrary to the European average, Portugal has practically no public housing sector. Competition with speculative real estate funds, tourist pressure experienced in many cities, and huge tax incentives for real estate speculation. These have made access to decent housing an enormous burden on the household budget. And the government are in a position to do something about it if they so wished. Great discussion, said Bob. And in Porto, recent trip, Airbnb hosts were all Portuguese, which is quite interesting, unless they were contractors who manage on someone else's Airbnb. Coming from California, the cost of living in Ericeira, more expensive location, is about half of a lower quality of life in California. Joao F, Portuguese perspective. In my modest opinion, explaining the lack of housing in Portugal with golden visa is the most handy excuse anyone could come up with. The truth is that greedy speculators have taken advantage of this pretext to raise prices disproportionately, and they will, of course, be of all nationalities, won't they? I believe this is a far more accurate assessment of the situation, says James. to Joao F there. Isn't it inevitable that cities become gentrified? Investment cash is pumped in. Look at the number of construction cranes. Yes, the crane count is often a significant thing, isn't it? So therefore, the expectation is profiting from this speculation, even if the cost, says James, of living was the same in California, the quality of life is far better here in Portugal. We'll come back to these. Ali, are you feeling that in the south?
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting because Algarve is a much quieter area of the Algarve. And yet every week somebody's posting up that they've got a 2 or 3 bed for rent for like 1,500 a month. And the average income for people here is 700-800 take home. So how can local people, and that worries you, because I think in the north what happened is people couldn't find work. The farming and the local traditional industries closed down, so they kind of were forced, I think, to move away to find work. Whereas the problem down in the Algarve is people obviously have the work, particularly even if it's seasonal work in the tourist sector, but trying to find accommodation to be able to live locally. It's a bit like the London problem, isn't it? I mean, there's so many people work in London but can't afford to live in London. That's Ferragudo's gone. It's gone mad. There's so much construction going on now. It almost feels like the heart of that little fishing village that we fell in love with 20 years ago is disappearing.
Interesting. And do you think that's unchecked development? When I live in San Martino de Porto, I sometimes pinch myself and think I am so glad that planning has been difficult in this town, because it hasn't ended up like parts of the Spanish, Costa del Sol, where there's been unbridled. This is the other end of the spectrum, I think. I think they've struggled to build things here because of, I don't know why. There are a number of reasons, I think, but we've benefited from it not being just completely strip developed along the front of this beautiful waterfront. Is something happening in the Algarve now? Have things changed?
No, I think they tried really hard with a lot of places in the Algarve to try and respect the environment as it was built. And certainly if you look at, there's huge fuss around the wetlands in Lagoa and whether they're going to build there. That's been going on for years. But I think generally the landscape itself has helped, because if you look, you can't go too far back in the Algarve before you hit land that isn't easy to develop. You're into Monchique and you're into, the Foya. So that's going to be protected because it's not land that's going to be built on. And of course, you've got the whole Costa Vicentina and you've got the Via Algarviana, which helps because they're protected routes. So we're quite lucky, I think, around Algesur that the landscape itself naturally there's an edge to the village town that you can't actually build beyond because it's either wetland or it's protected forest and walks. So that helps, I think.
Well done, Portugal. Well done,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's one thing just before I forget I'd forgotten to mention. At the moment, until the end of April, I think it is, at the Museum of Lisbon, which is by Campo Grande, there is a great exposition of urban planning actually that happened over, I think, probably for almost the start of the regime right the way up to recent dates, because obviously for a certain period of time it's interesting to see how bad it was. Right. As people all over the world, and not just to Portugal, as people from outside the city migrate into the cities, because that's where work was, they came from the land-based stuff and moved into cities. Of course, there was no housing for them. Yeah. And it shows how various different strategies came up both from the government, but also by the locals, of like picking these little areas where many of these places where you see a square, that little square that's kind of hidden away, became that because people moved in there and built little sort of ramshack accommodation just to build kind of a little area where they could live with their kids and their kids could be outside and that kind of thing. So that's quite fascinating.
It's interesting. Also create a vernacular in terms of architectural language. So it's a great exhibition.
Cracking photographs by the sound of it of old Portugal.
Yeah. Really, if you get a chance before the end of April, go and have a look.
Thank you for that. Talking of cracking photographs, this is what Snapshot's all about, right? The beautiful photographs. Tabitha was asking what this chap's name is, Stephen Powell. I think you were keen. You've come across him, I think, Tabitha, elsewhere. What's his name again? I read an article recently about a woman who was the only inhabitant. Did he meet her?
I don't think so, but he certainly went into some villages where there were literally 6 or 7 people in the village. So yes, I read that article as well. I was fascinated. She seemed very happy and content to be the only person in her village as well.
I mean, we all feel like that sometimes, I think, don't we? So I interrupted you, Ali, some time ago, and I think it was to do with housing, possibly. But look at these beautiful pictures you've got here. Oh, that's a painting. Is that one of your paintings on the right
That's
there?
one of my paintings. Yeah. I put literally, it's just a snippet from the magazine. Obviously, there's at least usually a dozen of Dave's photographs every month from the beaches that he's found and loved. But if you jump through, just flick through a couple of pages. I'm smiling.
Yeah,
one more page. That's the one. There you go.
Okay.
We always put some stories in, and I had some great fun with this one. Dave, the photograph that you can see there of a cave. It's beautiful. It's all gold highlights in the rocks. It's stunning. But to get to it, Dave decided to go completely off-road. Now, we've only got a little Honda Jazz, bless it. The car that you can see on that bottom left picture is not our car. It's a nice four-wheel drive car that managed to get up and back down again. There's our car. That little silver one there, that's us.
Okay.
Dave got stuck, completely stuck. Couldn't get up, couldn't get out, had to get a taxi home. I was doing my book signing that had been in the diary for weeks the next day. We've only got one car, so we had to, bless him, Portuguese friend Ricardo, had to chat him up. He drove me all the way to Algarve, helped with the book signing, drove me home again. Gleefully, I have to say, when we rang him on the Sunday morning, said that you couldn't give Dave a lift back to that beach where our car's stuck, could you? Because Dave's got to meet the Bomberos there. It was so funny. He was going, will you ring them? No, I didn't need to go. You can ring them and you can go with Ricardo and you can get our car back. So, yeah, it was. There's a 4-page story in total of this, but we just shared all the pictures. But they literally, there's our car. But apparently a Honda Jazz has a tiny little hook at the front with a tiny little screw thing that's supposed to attach to the hook so that you can be towed.
Yes.
We haven't got one of them. So they tow backwards. I've got a video as well. But it's just like, so we try and share, things that have happened to us as well, like that. Because, it's just too good not to, really, isn't it? And Dave, he's like, you're not going to put that in Snapshot, are you? And I'm like,
that must come quite a lot in your daily life. That's not going in the magazine, is it? Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, Dave, I feel your pain here. And
I have to say, we get lots of people. I know it. Everyone loves it because we get so many emails and messages from people that are subscribed to it, telling us how much they've loved it. But I've had about 4 or 5 people this month go, I got stuck on a beach as well, and some people sent me their photos as well. So it brings the little community all together.
Mailbag as well. Let's see those. Feel free. Use your slot here as an overflow as well. Anything that can't fit in the magazine, let's talk about it on the show here. And I think Villa de Bispo Bomberos are on your Christmas card list by the sound.
Oh, they are on Dave's, definitely.
Yeah, Dave owes them big time. So
I have to say, they were amazing. I mean, obviously there's a call-out charge. And a fee. We were happy to pay all of that. We found out, it's interesting to know, our car, we're fully insured, breakdown cover, not covered. It only actually covers you for what they consider to be basically a proper road.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So it's worth checking your insurance and your breakdown cover to see what you're actually covered for. Because if you go off-road, which is not difficult, let's be honest, around here, you're not covered at all for anything. So worth knowing, isn't it? We had no idea.
It is. What since we drive a Portuguese cut and shut, so I don't even know what that is. A Honda Renault behind. Even my car is binary. Is that legal? I wonder. Okay. Small hint coming in from Joao F. Just a small hint. If you want Easter eggs, buy a chicken, not an Easter rabbit. They won't give you any eggs. That's misleading advertising. Never thought of that, but yes, fair play. And a thought about the Portuguese here from Joao as well. I would say that the Portuguese, we're talking about being Iberian, us foreigners coming over. Portuguese are, to a great extent, transnational people because they have been traditionally immigrating to all corners of our round world, the corners of the round world, but they always carry Portugal in their hearts. Yeah, I think anyone who is Portuguese or even lived here will always have a little bit of the Portugal in their hearts and the saudade that goes with it. So let's get back to the mag. People love to see pictures of the pets, don't they? Yeah.
They do. Well, you'll remember last time I was on the show was launching my Cat the Dog book, which has been a huge success. Both sides on, which has been brilliant. So, I could just about tell you now. Sadly, we lost her in October. She died from a lung infection. It was the worst time of my life.
I'm sure.
Awful. But we lasted 2 weeks, and as you can see from the picture on the bottom left there, this is little Zara, our new Spanish water dog, who's fast asleep beside me at the moment.
Oh, excellent!
She's a real sweet, yeah. So she's up to all sorts of mischief. She's featured in next month's edition. I can tell you that already because she's been writing the monkey this week. So
and Cat is remembered and lives on in Cat's Questions in the magazine.
Yeah. We started off with a feature where literally we contact. We've got all sorts of authors, local people, anyone that's got a funny dog, cat. I've got a horse coming up, and I think at some point there's a lizard that's going to be interviewed. So who knows?
Ferrets are popular in Portugal, you know.
Absolutely, yes. Anybody with a ferret, contact me. I would love to interview your ferret. There you go.
Just shout out to the ferret owners this morning. Excellent.
Yeah, but we always enjoy interviewing four-legged friends. It's a popular feature. And then we have some wonderful support. Bless her, Ivan from Relish, Portugal, every month.
Yes, there's got to
she's great.
To be some food in here, hasn't there? Look
at
that.
It's got to be some food. So this month, migash. So we share a recipe every month. We always interview. I'll explain at the end. But my top 5 Algarve. We interview somebody that's moved to the Algarve, and they give us their top 5 tips. So it could be their best restaurant, favourite beach, best place to go for a day out, best place to play golf. They choose. They tell me their top 5. So we share that every month. So that's another feature that comes in.
And we'll keep stepping through. We need to know where we can get this. People will be asking me that already, I'm sure.
I can share. And then, bless them, Rui and Joel from Practice Portuguese. We've started doing some Portuguese lessons every month as well. So they very kindly let me have access to all of their material. So we share a little bit on their website every month, which is great.
They didn't let me have access to their material. Okay, very nice. Lovely job there.
It's good. There you go then. And then every month, obviously, I've got links and connections with so many different authors now that we always do a big Meet the Author feature every month. So it could be anyone from anywhere in the world. And I try and dig underneath and find out why they're writing, how they write, how does it feel, what happens when they finish the book, you know, what soundtrack plays in your head while you're writing. I'm always keen to get underneath a little bit and find out their story, really. So,
and she's a shepherd, is she? Grace Olsen?
Grace is fantastic. She's very interesting. She wrote her book. She had postnatal depression really badly, and she found that she went to a local. It's called The Yard. Her book, but she found that working with the horses in the local horse yard really helped her to heal. So her book's a fascinating insight into how mental health and how working and being with animals can help you to heal. It's really interesting. So that's
great stuff. Okay, a little bit more previewing of Snapshot. Puzzle corner, very good, like that.
Yeah, I have so many people sit down with a cup of tea every month and want to sort of go through a little puzzle, so a little word search. And then obviously I kind of feature my books. Dave usually does a hints and tips on photography section. So there's a little bit there on. Lots of people have started picking up their cameras and enjoying doing some photography, which is great. Tremendous. So it's always nice to inspire people. And then I always do reviews of books. There's actually a review of Stephen's book this month, so you can find out a lot more about his work.
He's great.
And then we always pick little things like little website shop of the month. Artists and photographers that we like sharing. We like and things together. It's good. So and then that's basically the sign up. It's free. When you sign up, top right there, the little My Top 5 Algarve is my own guide to the Algarve. It's about a 40-page PDF. You get it free when you sign up.
Yeah.
And then you literally will have Snapshot delivered to your inbox every month if you want to. Or you can just look online. That same link there, the AlysonSheldrake.com news, will take you to the website. Every month, the editions are on there. There's a whole archive of all the other months that you've missed. So you can... that
is superb. That is superb.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Isn't that lovely? 98 pages, did you say this time?
I hit over 100 last month, the March edition, but that was the biggest we've ever done. But it's, from a little 4-page A4 10 years ago, who knew it would end up being a free magazine every month? But I love it. I enjoy doing it. It's really nice. And it's great to connect people. It's good to share things and to promote the Algarve in Portugal. So it's good.
Here's a hack for the puzzle page. Try a Japanese instruction leaflet, just an idea. Wow, F has got some great advice this morning. And thank you so much, Ali. What a fantastic debut. We look forward to seeing you again here in this residency. I think we'll all be together on the first Thursday here. And I think Fabrizio and Ian might stay for the second half with you here. It's been great fun hanging out.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what's going on here. Would you like to interview a Great Dane, Ali, is one question.
I would love to, yes. Just email. By the website, I'd love to.
Fantastic. Morning all. Apologies for late arrival. Been driving since before 7. I hope you got some Yorkies there or full English at a nice little trucker stop. Normal service will resume tomorrow. Have a great day. Great to see you, Coach Turner. Missed you this morning. You're a Fulham boy and you don't know what a cut and shut is. No, I don't.
I'm from Birmingham, though, so I would, and I was an ex-police officer.
So is Ian.
There
you go.
Is it 2 cars put together, the cut and shut? Is that what it is?
Basically, yeah.
Well,
Get 2 cars that crash, one where the front's still all right and one where the back's all right, and you weld them together. Off you go.
Okay. And is that allowed?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the car's legal and it passes in MOT, it doesn't matter what ends which, does it?
Okay. I don't know what the first bit of this was, but I think we're finding out that the Algarve is the village in the Goiás. I mean, what a lovely part of Portugal that is, around Goiás, with just the 1 inhabitant. I imagine she's a bit sorry that she was in the paper, because a peaceful life of hers, I imagine, had loads of jokers turning up now saying, "Oh, it must be lovely living here on your own." There used to be. Oh, superb. Okay, thank you all so much. We'll cut it short today. We would normally have the Iberian FM phone in at 10 o'clock, and we will continue to do that. What I'll do is end with a request here for people who have friends in Spain. Ideally, the foreigners, the immigrants, the expats in Spain, who would like a bit of banter at 10 o'clock Portuguese time and 11 o'clock Spanish time, of course. And we'll have a chat. We'll throw open the phones. We'll have a much bigger population and diversity of cultures to deal with, and we'll have a bit of fun. So if you know anyone like that who'd be up for ringing into the show and talking to us from Spain or Andorra or Gibraltar or that southern bit of France that is also the Iberian Peninsula, let's do that. But for today, Sarah's in quickly. Sorry to have missed you guys. Bad schedule today. Lovely to see you nonetheless. Thank you very much, Fabrizio and Ian. Your excellent insight on the housing crisis and really calming us down, letting us know that still it's great to come to Portugal. It's just changed a little bit. We will get through this. And Ali, your lovely Snapshot, which is a spotlight on the Algarve. Lovely to have you here and to welcome you into a monthly residency. So thank you very much. Round of applause. And of course, tonight, you may want to watch this evening, the great debate, which is the best region to live in mainland Portugal. That's 7:30. It's going to be rough and tough. No holds barred, as those are 5 representatives from those different parts of Portugal battle it out. One of them will be eliminated. They will be intimidated and then eliminated. We haven't seen any natas for a while. Here's a couple. Show us your natas, everybody. Take that picture of you enjoying your cafe in natas around Portugal, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, there's my pants. We haven't got. We don't have time to go into that right now. Thank you so much. Thankfully, all the best to you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity. on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.